I spent 3 months building with OpenAI APIs directly. Then I switched to Azure AI Foundry. And I genuinely wish someone had told me what I'm about to show you. Because on the surface, these two looks almost identical. Same GPT models, similar pricing page, but under the hood, they are completely different tools for completely different situations. Before I get into the real comparison, let me quickly clear something up. Because even Microsoft's own naming is confusing here. Azure AI Foundry used to be called Azure AI Studio. They rebranded it, expanded it, and now it's basically your entire AI development workshop, not just a place to call models. OpenAI Direct API, on the other hand, is just a raw engine. You call it, it responds. Anything else, monitoring, agents, integration, you build yourself. And here is the thing people most miss. Azure AI Foundry actually includes OpenAI models inside it. So you are not choosing between the models, you are choosing how much infrastructure you want pre-built. Alright, let's talk about the part that trips up almost every developer, pricing. And I promise this is not as simple as it looks. OpenAI Direct API pricing looks cheaper upfront. GPT-4o is $2.5 per million input tokens. Azure charges a little more for the same model. So on paper, OpenAI wins, right? But here is what the comparison is missing. When something breaks at 2 a.m., Azure gives your application insights, monitoring, built in. With OpenAI Direct, you are flying blind unless you build your own logging. When you need to connect SharePoint or Microsoft Teams, that's week of custom integration work with OpenAI. On Azure Foundry, it's already there. So yes, the per token cost is slightly higher on Azure, but for a real production app, the total cost including developers' time, Azure often wins. Now here is a question which I get a lot. Does routing through Azure actually makes your response slower? And the honest answer is yes, sometime. Let me show you why. Azure runs every single prompt and every response through a content filtering system and a set of classification models that checks for harmful content before anything reaches you. That adds latency. For enterprise apps dealing with sensitive data, that's actually a feature. But if you're building a real-time consumer product, it's something you need to plan for. There is also the usage tier system. At low to medium traffic, Azure latency is super consistent. But at high sustained load, you start seeing variability unless you upgrade to provision throughput, which is a separate pricing model. OpenAI Direct is simpler to start with, but you are also dealing with their rate limits, and quota increases on both the platforms require submitting request forms. Okay, so where does Azure AI Foundry just absolutely leave OpenAI Direct API in the dust? Agents and model variety. This is the part that honestly surprised me the most. I worked with a team that built 5 specialized agents in 1 week using Azure AI Foundry. A research agent, an analysis agent, a reporting generation agent, all working together. To build that system from scratch using OpenAI API, we are talking months of work. Azure Foundry has Semantic Kernel, an AutoGen built in for multi-agent orchestration. You don't build that infrastructure, it's already there. And then there is the model catalog. Over 11,000 models, not just OpenAI, Cohere, Meta, Llama, Mistral, DeepSeek, and the crazy part, you can switch between all of them without changing a single line of code. One endpoint, one set of credentials, and all the models. So after all that testing, here is my actual verdict, and I'll keep it simple, because this does not need to be complicated. If you're a solo developer, just prototyping something or building a simple chatbot, start with OpenAI Direct API. It's simpler, it's faster to get going, and you don't need the extra infrastructure yet. But if you're building a real production application, you need compliance, you need monitoring, you need your app to connect to enterprise tools, or you are thinking about using more than just ChatGPT models, Azure AI Foundry is the smarter move. The slightly higher per token cost disappears the moment you factor in what you are not having to build yourself. The future of serious AI development is not about who has the cheapest API call. It's about getting something reliable into production fast. And on that front, Azure Foundry wins for most teams. Which one are you using right now? And what made you pick it? Drop it in the comment. I read every single one. And if you want me to test Azure Foundry agent system against LangChain next, subscribe. because that video is coming soon.